All right, so we're going to talk about the elections. What's your position on the election?
Um, I mean, my position as far as you mean, like, in the
Yeah,
candidates.
well, what do you like? So this is kind of why do you believe what you do? So what is it that you believe about the elections?
I believe that Trump's gonna win.
Really?
Yeah, he's got more support than the mainstream media is leading the general public to believe.
And on a scale of like 1 to 100, how certain are you that he's going to
Uh,
win?
I would say 95.
95. Wow.
Yeah.
So even though it seems like the vast majority of the mainstream media is in favor of Biden,
Yeah.
and most of the polls say that Biden is winning.
Well, if you look back to 2016,
Yes.
the same pattern. You're seeing the same pattern.
Right.
But if you're realistic, you go back and look at the electoral map. You know, it hasn't changed. In fact, even Minnesota, Wisconsin, these places are leaning more towards Trump.
Hmm.
Uh,
Why do you think that is?
the riots,
Okay.
these riots have actually, I believe, have opened up a lot of people's eyes, and they are beginning to vote based on values instead of, trying to please somebody else. Because, especially, let's say, the race issue has been overexploited, politicized
Overexploited by. Uh,
by by um, by I would say the far left Democrats,
okay. Okay.
uh, and people who were supposedly moderates, even like Biden years ago. Now they are they are far left.
So you like talking about defunding the police and that sort of thing?
Yeah, defunding the police. It's a thing where um, so they want to use emotions and sentiment, and they know that's very common with black people.
Mm.
So they're trying to use that to get to where they're going. But I think the process took long enough, and it's allowed many people to see how things are playing out,
Mm.
and they're seeing, you
Is it
know.
is it so? Do you see like a discrepancy between the reporting from the media and what's actually going on,
Yeah.
and
Oh
so
yeah.
people see that they're being manipulated,
Oh
maybe?
yeah. Oh yes. I think because for years, for example, Trump has said the news media is fake,
Right.
and even if you go back to like the '60s, I've read books about where, like, Malcolm X, he talked about how the media was fake,
Right.
and so
And he also Malcolm X said a lot that you know don't worry so much about the conservative, worry more about the liberal.
liberals, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he talked about that.
Yeah.
So I noticed, like, how, like, there's no way where, like, humans, like certain humans, they're just always good. This other person is just always bad.
Right.
So when Trump said, fake media, I like to analyze things for myself. He used to work in the media. He knows these people. He knows them, like, firsthand,
Personally.
personally.
Yeah.
So what these people did was, instead of Trump, like, they know, like, Trump knows them. He's speaking facts on them. So what they are using their power to manipulate, what they're manipulating people
Hmm.
to be on their side.
And,
So in order to do that, they have to, you know form an alliance with people that, quote unquote, not quote unquote, not accepted in this society, and, like, build up on stories like that and say, hey,
hmm
look over
hmm
there. So it's like they're using what they think of those people and projecting it onto their
Right.
opponent.
And the media has a tremendous amount of influence and power, and you don't think that despite and then you compound the sort of mainstream TV newspaper media with things like Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, who also seem to be sort of very much supportive of Biden. You don't think that that will have enough impact to sway the election?
Um, I don't think
Because
so.
a lot of people they just read the headline.
Headlines,
Yep.
yes, that's definitely uh, a concern, but also uh, people are also seeing videos
Mm,
of of the opposite of that.
right.
Because if media, for example, if media is saying no, for example, with the riots, they're like, no, it's not it's not a riot, it's just peaceful
Right.
protest,
Right.
so you're like, wait a minute, what's peaceful about this? So I think some things would go in their favor, but then it unravels the next day,
Mm,
because there are people I notice more and more people are no longer are beginning to come out of the shadows,
uh-huh.
to counter the lies.
Right. And people, the media no longer has a monopoly on information. People can
Can
get
access.
other sources like videos and thousands of people who do commentary on the media, and people can see that.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
mean,
do you think that Donald Trump had, the media and Democrats are always calling Donald Trump a racist? Do you think that he's made inroads in winning over Latino black vote?
oh yeah, actually, I believe a lot more blacks and Latinos uh, actually support Trump,
Right.
because I've watched so many different videos where you can tell, like, the blacks, they're not even hiding it, and you 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 have your own, a segment, because we know in America there's a segment that believes anything that's on TV.
Right.
So those people are still on that bandwagon where, um, if you want to trigger them, just say
Yeah.
racist, just use that word,
Right.
and 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 it's like a plague. That word, like, almost is now the most scariest word for a white
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
If you're losing the argument, all you gotta say is, I you know
You're a racist.
you're a racist, and the conversation is over.
Right.
But Trump, okay, black most blacks have been trained to believe when they say racist, you would back off. If you don't back off, then that qualifies that you are.
That
So
reaffirms that you are.
reaffirms it. So
Yeah.
Trump, they cannot tell you what he said is racist, because the people that are formulating it, they're not the ones coming up with it. The media comes and says, you see, Trump says this and that is racist, so he should apologize. So Trump never follows their trap, because he
Right.
knows it's a game. So you would come to the guy and ask him, like, for example, in the debate, they asked him, uh, are you going to condemn white supremacy? And then they came up with the Proud Boys. He said, name one. They said the Proud Boys, but okay, the Proud Boys, nobody has ever seen them burning down places. You see? So, but imagine, it's like this question. If I say, hey, do you still beat your wife?
Right. Yeah. Begging the question. Yes.
Do you still beat your wife?
Right.
You'll be like, well,
There's no way to win
like,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
people. So you have blacks who are waking up to, seeing that
And
This is a game.
you think that because of your observations on social media. What about in your personal life?
Oh yeah. In my personal life, I know people who they used to support uh, support like Black Lives Matter and what is happening, but now they're beginning, and a lot of them are already they've questioned everything, and some of them are beginning to question it.
Mm.
Because
Enough to vote for Donald Trump.
yeah, because I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and he said something that kind of took me aback. Because was like, man, yeah, these people think they can beat Trump, but I don't think they could. I mean, Trump's got he knows what he's doing.
Right.
So like, because these are like people who in the beginning they would just, I mean, anything evil about Trump, that's what, it seems like that's what makes them happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Uh,
there are
calling him evil makes them happy.
yeah.
So you're saying?
Yeah. It's so I even saw a video, right? This was a panel. It was crazy. It was some black women there that, like they're talking about being fat. They're actually pretty fat.
About being fat. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But they blamed it on racism and Trump. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm screaming to myself. I said, as if they can hear me. I was like, okay, you are telling us you were like this athletic body
In
not
2016.
in 2016, and then now it's 20. This was in 2019.
Right.
So in less than 3 years, you're bigger than a Volkswagen. You know, you know. So, but it was the people there with her
In the audience.
yeah, agreed with her.
Right.
They're like, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that is kind of it's there's this group thinking happening,
Right.
and
Let me change the subject a little bit. So Donald Trump has, the media shows him over and over again saying that the COVID is not a big deal. It's going to go away, and they make it as though he's killing your grandparents, right?
right,
And then he doesn't wear a mask, and then he gets COVID, and you don't think that there's enough fear and around COVID that people will think that he's a danger to everybody with the way that he's handled COVID,
well,
like enough to vote to sway
yeah, I
sort
think
of people to Biden.
no, because um, so they were saying that Trump didn't care about the COVID. They try to blame him for all the people that died and how dangerous he is, and how they're pretty much saying COVID is a killer disease virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Trump tested positive for COVID, and you have a lot of these people who are sympathetic with the people that had COVID came out, with very terrible, evil messages, you know.
Right.
So
Are you talking about people who
the
say
media,
that they
yeah,
wish he would die and
yeah,
stuff like that?
stuff like
Right.
that.
Okay.
So to me, so that exposed the evil, you know, because they were saying just less than a week ago or a day prior, they were saying that they are so sympathetic with the people that got COVID, it's
Right.
serious. So now imagine all these other people that thought, like, let's say, some people think they are in with a good cause. So when they see that type of evil, you know, it generates sympathy for the intended target.
So you're saying you think that um, the people on the left were talking about being sympathetic to people who are sick with
Sick,
COVID,
right?
and then Donald Trump gets COVID and they wish him dead,
They wish him
and you
dead.
and the people who are observing this see see that the Democrats have exposed themselves as being
Evil.
evil,
Yes,
and therefore will side with Donald
with
Trump.
Donald Trump, because when Trump, so now Trump have debunked. I think this was so Trump have debunked the COVID being a instant killer.
By going to the hospital and then coming out
Coming
3
out,
days later
yes,
and just
yeah.
being
So he's debunked that. So because if you look at it, the I saw like CNN, they were very upset. So you were wishing him well, with mixed feelings, and now he's out. Now you're upset he is well. Like,
right,
which one is it?
right,
You know. So, so I think that would sway people. You know.
right, right.
Yeah, because they're pretty much exposing themselves to, because what they were projecting, like showing, and their actions are completely different.
So you think a lot of people will see them as being fake and
Yeah,
evil? Yeah,
yeah, because some people are just, they are vulnerable, but some would still be mad.
yeah,
They Because they share this, any sentiment the TV wants them
right, right.
to hold. So
So another thing that gets people really upset about Donald Trump is his stance on like climate change and the Green New Deal, and they see him as promoting fossil fuels and not trying to switch over to green energy and whatnot. You don't think that that's uh, how do you think that people between now and 2016 will that seems to have grown in people's concerns?
well, I think, that depends on the part of the country
Yeah,
you are in, and I think the new Green Deal, like they asked Biden on that, he totally lied about it, and he didn't even want to answer, right? So I would think if that triggered enough people to go on his website and then find out that he's lying, and that's because Trump, I think, did a good job explaining how that's going to kill the economy, and the states that I think where the votes really count, um, they would take that into consideration,
the swing
because
states, you mean?
the swing states,
Right.
um, they would prefer Trump's idea over. Oh,
Forget it
they
later.
would they would prefer Trump's idea over Biden's.
So maybe like the short term benefit of the economy is more important than uh, the worry about climate change in the future.
Well, I think they are playing on people's fear, because if you look at it, um, like let's say the United States withdrawing from the Paris Accord. If you go look at it, how much money was involved in that, you know. And to be frank, like, I don't believe these people are accurate in trying to tell us about what the future looks like, because what they are pushing for, like electric cars, that uses up more fossil than you think. Because where's the energy coming from? So
Solar. Well, at
no,
the moment, it comes from
yeah, but
more.
but I'm talking what it takes to build those
Right,
batteries.
right.
That's, to me, that if we're worried about climate change, that would change the climate to to that would change the climate faster than what we have going on. And I don't believe that like how they're painting Trump, saying he's in it for himself. So far, from what I've seen, um, he's the only guy that truly like has proven that he loves America. And when you're looking for a leader, let's be frank, we want somebody who's going to get the job done. Like, he's not here to massage your feelings or your childhood traumas. You and your parents or your therapist should have, taken care of that. I know it sounds, people might say that sounds mean whatsoever, but it's the truth.
I talk to a lot of people who say, Trump's not nice. He's not a nice person.
We didn't. What do they mean by he's not nice?
Well, the point I'm getting at, I think, is that there are a lot of people who, like I said before, there are people who just read the headlines. Like, they don't know, what was said in the Paris Accord. They just think that Donald Trump doesn't care and he's mean, and it's like they vote like with their emotions.
Yeah, because
so many people are just they don't not so much worried about the details and
they don't know.
But since so many people are succumb to that way of thinking or that way of being, with just being led by their emotions, that would seem like a weakness for Trump. And in the 2016 election, people hated Hillary Clinton so much, right? And so that, like, a lot of people said, we're going to take a chance with Donald Trump because they hated her. Like, they were voting against her.
But people don't like.
But Joe Biden doesn't generate the same amount of hatred.
But they don't like Kamala.
Ah.
You see? And, okay. For example, like, so I watch, because I like to read stuff, get the details. And I watch several of Trump's speeches and interviews or him
Right.
talking, right? So I would watch it live where there's no interruption,
Right.
and I would hear everything he said.
You're talking like rallies, press conferences.
And then they would come out, like in short clips, they would say, like they would use something, a clip, and say, you see, he said this, but they are just using. So I'm like, no, he didn't, like play the whole thing.
Right. I think the classic one is the good people on both sides.
Both sides,
right?
yes. I watched that in real life. And later I found out they were like, he's saying this. I was like, wait, what? That's not what he said.
Yeah.
And but it's like they have control over that.
Yeah.
Because I started paying more attention to what is being said, because I feel like somebody's manipulating us.